Sheila Walsh asked her Facebook followers about prayer. Hundreds of responses flooded in. Many of them spoke about struggles and challenges, and they were ones that Sheila knew about firsthand.
If you're like me, you might find prayer a little bit intimidating.
Sheila Walsh is well known as a conference speaker and the co-host of Life Today with James and Betty Robeson. She believes prayer is our most powerful tool, but it's often challenging.
We know instinctively that prayer is important, but we struggle to pray. And then we feel guilty and wonder what is wrong with us.
A prolific best-selling author, Sheila offers practical keys to a vibrant prayer life in her new book, Praying Women. She says prayer isn't about having the right words, but the right heart.
Well, Sheila Walsh is here with us now, and we welcome you home.
Thank you. Always feels like coming home.
It does. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about this sort of questionnaire that you did on Facebook. Were you surprised at the answers, or did you expect that?
Yes and no. I mean, some of the answers I completely related to. You know, people said, I get bored. Yeah. I get distracted. You know, I'm halfway through interceding and I'm like, you know, did I defrost the chicken for dinner? But some were more intense, things like, why would I pray? Because God already knows what he's going to do. Yeah. Or I prayed and prayed for my child and God did not answer in any way that made sense. So I found a lot of women have just walked away from prayer. Yeah.
Well, people in general, I think, but yes, women are sort of the prayer warriors of the family, of the community. And so I think it is confusing to people. Are we looking for God to give us what we want, and then when he doesn't, we don't get it?
You know, I think it's not understanding our relationship. I don't know how 2019 was for you. For our family, it was a hard year. It was like a year of spiritual warfare. But for 2 years, this word prayer has been in my heart and in my spirit. And 2020 is going to be the year of prayer. It's going to be the year when God's daughters get down on their knees and the battle is not over, the battle is just beginning. I believe we're going to see breakthrough in 2020 that we have not seen in a long time.
So you talked a little bit about 2019 being difficult for your family. I think when people speak and teach publicly like you do, everybody just assumes you have a vibrant prayer life and you've got it all together and you're in your closet warring for your needs. But you too struggled with these things.
I tried the whole having a prayer closet thing, but I fell asleep because it was really comfortable. I put a blanket in there and a pillow, and it was a disaster. But what I found out was God is not looking for a holy place. Because of Jesus, we are the holy place. Yes. So for me, I've taken prayer off my to-do list. And it's my who I am list from the minute I get up in the morning. And one of the greatest things I've learned, Terry, is to process your pain in the presence of God. You know, when we hurt or when we don't get an answer, so often we walk away. But I've learned that when you can bring everything that's going on, you get to tell God the truth.
Yeah. But what do you do in those moments, Sheila? Because this is where I think people get thrown. When you have a need and you're not... You talked about not understanding the process or the relationship. Well, God uses those things. I'm not saying he causes them, but he uses those things to shape us. So what should our attitude be when we are struggling, when we're having a 2019 and it's awful?
You know, Christ was the most beautiful example of what to do. When you think of his prayer in Gethsemane, you know, where he prayed so intensely in such agony that drops of blood. And Luke's the only one who tells us that because he's the doctor and he realizes the significance of that. So Jesus didn't pretend that this is great. You know, he said if it's possible, but then he moved on to not my will, but your will. But it's only if you tell God the whole truth first. It's like you empty out your suffering and it makes more space for grace.
You also talk in the book a lot about you using Psalms as sort of the structure, the guideline for how you, when you're praying. How do you do that? What does that look like?
That's been revolutionary for me. I mean, the Psalms were given by God to the people of God to pray back to God. Yeah. And I mean, I look back, like all the early church fathers, like Athanasius or Augustine, they said the Psalms are a spiritual gymnasium. So what I do, like I'll take Psalm 23 and I'll pray, the Lord is my shepherd. And I'll stop there and I'll say, Lord, thank you. You're going to shepherd me through this day. And the whole way through the psalm, I'll pause. You know, even though I walk through the valley of the darkest shadow of death, Lord, I've got a friend right now who has a brain tumor. So right now I pause and I bring Brent before you and I ask for your healing touch. That when you know, sometimes you wonder, are my prayers kind of not that great?
Hitting the wall, yeah.
Yeah, but if you're praying the word of God, you're praying with power. So I use the Psalms. I pray a psalm every single day.
That's it. It really does. Praying the word of God back to God really makes a difference. A lifetime is not too long to pray. That's one of the quotes that you have. What do you mean when you say that?
When I was just a wee girl growing up in Scotland, I went every Tuesday night with my mum to the prayer meeting. Now, it's a small church, 20 people, but this one man, Angus, prayed with tears pouring down his cheeks for his wife. And I asked my mum, how long has Angus been doing that? And she said, 40 years. And then one time Angus took my brother and I up in a little plane to the place way up in the Northern Highlands where he'd grown up. And I remember sitting in this little church and saying to him, Angus, can I ask you a question? Do you wonder why God hasn't answered your prayer for your wife? And he's paused for a minute and he said, well, he's never failed me yet, lass. I don't think he'll start now. What he would not know was it was at his memorial service that his wife gave her life to Christ. And he wouldn't know that till 2 years later when she came home. So a lifetime is not too long to pray.
Is there a right or a wrong way to pray?
Nope.
Yeah, because it changes with what your need is, doesn't it?
Because prayer, I mean, it's like, I love what John Bunyan said, better to have a heart with no words than words with no heart. God is not looking for our perfection. He just wants our presence.
And when we do what you're talking about, which is walking through the moment-to-moment day with him, it becomes, prayer is more conversation. Pleading probably when we're in those valley places where our hearts are just ripped and crying. But it all makes sense when you have the conversation on a day-to-day basis.
And we use the word of God against the lies of the enemy, that you're not enough, you'll never be enough, nobody loves you. We use the word of God as a weapon.
But we've got to know it to use it like that because, you know, you need it in the moment. So are we in the word enough? And not just in it, are we putting it in us? There's a difference between those two things.
That's so true, Terry. I mean, you can read the Bible, you can study the Bible, but unless you know how to apply it to your life, you're not changed. But it's God's love letter to us.
Amen. And we need to use it. You've got some events coming up in your life. Tell us about those.
Well, next Wednesday...
coming up quickly.
At Prestonwood Baptist, which is my church, we're going to do a live simulcast where I'm going to share a message from the book, but also premiere my new worship album. And you can go to prayingwomenlive.com and sign up. But on the day after Valentine's, we have a thing called She Loves Out Loud. And we're gathering 1 million women across America to pray. When God's daughters go down on their knees, the battle is not over. It is just beginning.
Absolutely. I want to mention Sheila's book is for all of us. You can find out more about her simulcast event by going to cbn.com. If you're looking to energize your prayer life, be sure to get this. It's called Praying Women, How to Pray When You Don't Know What to Say. And it's available in stores nationwide. And once more, tell us how we get the info on the event coming up. It's Praying
SheLovesOutLoud.org and prayingwomenlive.com. And it's free, but you can sign in.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
You're always
Terry.
doing stuff that matters.